One day I was scrolling through my abandonware when I stumbled across a game called Robert D. Anderson and the Legacy of Cthulhu. Now there are quite a few games based on the Lovecraft mythos. Alone in the Dark, those old point-and-click games, Dark Corners of the Earth, and some more modern examples. I certainly haven't played all of these games, but I have at the very least heard of them, so I was a bit surprised to find one I've never heard of at all, especially one that came out in 2007. Looking at the screenshots, it appears to be an FPS game. But what's this? FMVs? Color me intrigued. And when booting up the game, we were treated to an intro cinematic right off the bat.
Everyone calls me Anderson. Robert D. Anderson. The perfect name for a New York Seamus like me. And in times like these, I'm glad that almost no one knows my real name. Robert Dietrich, Baron von Landers.
I have to say this art is pretty high quality, and the voice acting isn't that bad either. Although I'm having a bit of an issue keeping up with everything that's being said, as they lay out a lot of info really quickly. The long and short of this is Robert D. Anderson, a private detective and formerly Robert Dietrich, came from a prestigious family whose estate was located on the Austrian-Bavarian border. They were forced to emigrate to America when they were attacked by an angry mob who called for the death of Robert's grandfather. Robert's father and mother passed away by the time he was a teenager, and after graduating college, he opened his own detective agency. He worked his way up the ranks and eventually became regarded well by the police. Out of the blue one day, he's called to a crime scene. An infamous occultist had been brutally killed. But it was not the death that called Robert there, for the dead man had received a letter from Robert's grandfather. Robert's grandfather had discovered that his son, Robert's father, wished to kill him, and the dead occultist had advised him on how to do so. After his grandfather killed Robert's father, at least I assume he did, this is never really stated outright, he found the letter the occultist had sent. He then sent something called the Digger after this guy. I have no idea what the Digger is. It's not in any Lovecraft lore to my knowledge, and it never comes up again. But it seems to have done the job. After taking all this in, Robert decides to head back to his old family estate, the one that burned down?
While the estate of the Landers was put to the torch.
I guess they rebuilt it or something. Whatever, doesn't matter. Unfortunately, this being 1940, the location of his estate is occupied by the Nazis, so Robert has to play it stealthy-like. But if stealth is the name of the game, I probably wouldn't suggest walking around with your gun drawn in an area you're not supposed to be in whatsoever. But what do I know? Apparently I know a lot because he is immediately stopped by German soldiers, beat up, has his cigarettes stolen, and is thrown into something called the Hole. I gotta say, even though it's clearly low budget, this presentation has been pretty good so far. Nice art, decent voice acting, fairly well done live action scenes. I'm not expecting the greatest game in the world, but this might actually be pretty good.
Damn. They could at least let me have the cigarettes.
Oh no. The more astute viewers out there might know what's up, but this is an FPS Creator game. If you don't know, FPS Creator was a program that was released in 2005 that allowed you to make, well, FPS games. But the conceit of it was you could do it easily. It came with a bunch of pre-made assets, and to my knowledge, you're more or less dragging and dropping in shit more than doing any real coding. Think of it as an RPG Maker, but for FPS games. The thing with FPSC is that it wasn't really made for commercial products. It was a hobbyist program to tinker around with, and most you would share them online for other people to play, but FPSC was ultimately a very limited engine not suited to a retail product. The difference between FPSC and something like RPG Maker is that an RPG kinda lives and dies by the writing, so you can get away with using a simplistic program. FPS games, on the other hand, you kinda need to be able to do a lot more for a game people are expected to pay for. What I was surprised to find out is that there are multiple retail products made with this program. However, unlike the Legacy of Cthulhu, most of these either appear to be self-published or the publisher in question was very small. Robert D. Anderson and the Legacy of Cthulhu had some real strength behind it, as it was published by Joe Wood Games. I mean, it's not a household name or anything, but I've definitely heard of them before, and they were certainly a legit publisher and were in operation for a very long time. It's blowing my mind that a group of people were able to convince a publisher of this pedigree to get involved with someone who was making their game with FPS Creator. I wasn't exactly being truthful when I said I booted up the game, because a very glaring issue presents itself right off the bat. This is the game's menu. Why is this the game's menu? Well, you see, it seems this developer lacked the ability to string all these levels together in a cohesive package. So they effectively cheat by having you select each level or chapter via this book menu. I originally thought this was due to limitations of the engine, but upon researching other retail products using FPSC, I came to find out they were all done traditionally. This is also why the developer calls this game an interactive novel. If you bought a novel this scant, you would ask for your money back. I can't read German, but even if I did, I couldn't fucking read it anyway. Could you guys not make this shit a little bigger? No, this interactive novel aspect is just an excuse to try and cover for shoddy programming. Oh, and guess what? The book doesn't even fucking work. Yeah, you can click on everything to your heart's content, but it won't do anything. Okay, I'm being harsh. I'm sure it worked at one point. It doesn't matter though, as I can just access all the levels via the game files. This is actually sort of a good thing, as if any of the levels end up being horribly broken, I can just pick the next one. A huge disadvantage of this system, however, is the fact you don't get to keep any of your stuff when you transition to the next chapter. It even says game complete when you beat a chapter, and you get this admittedly kick-ass song. If anyone knows what this is, can you let me know? Okay, maybe I'm being overly critical here. Indie developers certainly didn't have as many tools back then as they do now. Unity was brand new, and licensing engines can be really expensive. So even if it is a simplistic engine, I should reserve judgment. Okay, yeah, so this guy has been imprisoned, but not us for some reason. Also, this clearly isn't a cage, just like some structural support beams. Oh, and they've just left a gun lying around. How convenient. Also, there's seemingly no real way in here, as we have to shoot these explosive barrels that are blocking the way out. So how did we even get put in here in the first place? Well, Robert did say he was flung in here, so is this like an actual pit that they threw him in? Then why is this guy in a cage? Also, this lighting is really terrible. These don't look like shadows, more so just a complete absence of anything. Alright, well, we're shooting our way out of here. Excuse me?
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
Okay, I've seen enough. I haven't even gotten to the first enemy, and I need to stop. So clearly, just by looking at these first two rooms, whoever designed these maps had no idea what they're doing. Let's take a look at some of these other retail FPS Creator games. Sure, they're not impressive, but at the very least they have coherent level design. Despite an initial good presentation, and one that seems leaps and bounds better than any other game of this nature, they have completely failed in the game aspect of the video game. Who made this? Who are Homegrown-Games anyway? Well, their only presence in terms of an actual description is their IndieDB page, which is very scant on details. They make games, which we know, but apparently they also publish them, as well as publishing books, or at the very least they publish the books of the guy who writes for their games. Looking at their releases after the Legacy of Cthulhu, we have a continued list of non-accomplishments. In 2009, they developed Painkiller Resurrection, which on the face of it sounds like an accomplishment. Painkiller is a fairly well-known game and is regarded as being quite good. However, it got quite a few expansions, none of them are particularly well liked by the community, but Resurrection appears to be hated the most. Still, you might be thinking, well, at least they're moving up in the world and they've actually developed a game not using pre-made assets. However, in terms of the actual game, Resurrection is not original at all. It uses all of the same assets from the first Painkiller game, so with this release, they've once again made something that everything but the design of the levels has already been done, and still they've designed the levels poorly. Their next game, Into the Dark, uses the FPS creator engine. In 2013! Okay, there's no excuse for that. Come on, the indie scene was exploding in 2013, and you're gonna hit them with this?
Sam, is your notebook online? Can you get some information for me?
Sure, go on. Google is your friend.
The rest of the games they've developed, including one that is releasing next year, oh boy, better mark your calendars for that one, folks, use the Game Guru engine. Do you want to know who made the Game Guru engine? The game creators. Can you hazard a guess at what they made before that? Fucking FPS creator! Game Guru is effectively the updated version of FPSC. It's still extremely primitive, and if you've been making video games for years, you should definitely consider something else. Okay, I've gone on enough tangents, let's just get to the actual game. So it's time to shoot people, and the shooting is fine. The sound effects for the weapons you'll be using are fairly good, nothing amazing, and they feel fine to use. Enemies go into a pain state when you shoot them, which is not only a good indication of when they're hit, but it also interrupts their attacks. As much as I've been ragging on it, the developers of the engine clearly knew what they were doing in terms of the pillars of FPS games. The game only throws out 1 or 2 enemies at a time, meaning for most of the game, it's not that frustrating to fight people. Note how I said most of the time. Damage is taken seemingly pretty random. Sometimes it seems fair, but other times you're melted in seconds. I would say it depends on how far away you are from the enemy, but this doesn't always seem to be the case. This guy got off like 1 shot and it took more than 1/4 of my health away. Also, it doesn't really need stating, but this HUD is terrible. Its unnecessary art has it taking up way too much real estate. I would have just preferred the default FPS creator HUD in all honesty. Ah, cool, an MP40.
An SMG? No thanks. I hate those things. Look at what they did in Chicago.
What the fuck? Are you serious? Look, I've played games before where you can't pick up enemy weapons, but I've never played a game where it shows you a gun, one that you could seemingly pick up, and then the game character tells you he doesn't want to. Hey dude, sorry to burst your bubble, but you're still shooting them to death. It's hard to take a moral stance when you're still killing them. I mill around till I get to this giant hole. Obviously the game wants me to drop down it, but there's a door up there I can seemingly get to. So let's see what's up there first. Oh, literal nothingness. Why even put a usable door up here? Well, whatever, down the hole we go, and we happen across this electric field. Alright, let's see what we gotta do here. Really? There's another problem we're gonna run into. Various traps can damage you when you're not even near it. Just more shoddy programming, I guess. Get used to it. Alright, so we come across a giant room. After killing the enemy combatants, I find a note talking about prime numbers.
Code table. It looks as though everything here is coded with prime numbers.
Then I come across this room.
Electricity. Gas. Lots of switches. I think if I push the wrong thing here, I'm dead.
Okay, so I gotta be careful here. So we have a bunch of numbered switches, we just found a document talking about prime numbers, and the only prime number here is 7. Okay, not too hard to figure out. Hold on, that wasn't the solution? Well, guess what? That is the correct thing to do. The game just breaks here most of the time. So even though I'm flipping the correct one, it still explodes, killing you. Well, since I'm gonna be dying here a lot, let's talk about that. Whenever you die, it shows you this game over screen, which displays for a few seconds and you can't skip it. After that, it kicks you out to the menu where you're free to load your game. However, loading takes a really long time, so it's really cool when you have an instant death trap that doesn't work most of the time. Loading times are inconsistent, sometimes they're faster, sometimes they're slower. Probably depends on the size of the map. When it loads faster, it's actually a bit of a problem, because it cuts off Robert's monologue before he's finished.
Now I was making my way through a world about which I knew nothing. And which...
Fucking genius!
Also, whenever you load a save, any audio that was playing at the beginning of the level will play.
It has gotten really crazy up there, Robert. The altar of the flames is there. They burn people to fine ash and then bring them back.
Most of the time it's just Robert talking, but sometimes it's music, which has the potential to be layered on top of other music that's playing.
Fucking genius!
Well, I finally got the switch puzzle to work, and we're out of here. And that concludes the level, so doing all that was pointless. Great. In the beginning of this level, or chapter, whatever, Robert says this line.
Look at that. A real pistol. All I need is ammunition.
I'm assuming he is referring to his revolver, but when he says that line, it's nowhere in sight, and you find it behind a locked door near the end of the level, so I'm baffled about this piece of audio. You do get it though, and seemingly it does the same damage as your last gun. But I think it shoots faster. In the intro, Robert clearly had a Smith & Wesson Model 10, but here in the game it's a Magnum of some kind. Probably because it was the only stock asset the developers had access to. Great job, guys. Clearly got the hang of the whole making a video game thing. But hey, better get used to seeing it, as you'll be using this gun and this gun alone for 90% of the game. I'm getting deja vu here. There might as well be one, however, because you're going to be using the revolver for 90% of the game. I don't think it really needs explaining why giving the player one gun in an FPS game is stupid.
This animal reminds me of my childhood.
I don't know what it is about referring to Cthulhu as an animal, but it's very funny to me. Holy shit! Purple orb! Purple orb! Purple orb! But hey, this chapter actually ends with a boss fight. Just a guy with a rocket launcher, but at least they're trying.
Bazooka in the closed room? Those lunatics.
So in the next Oh, great way to start this one off, guys. Okay, beyond that, we're greeted by this room. I mean, what the fuck is this room? Two skeletons and what is seemingly a blind justice statue, blue lights with panels that don't do anything, and when we come in here, we're attacked by a British soldier. What the hell, shouldn't he be on my side? You probably think, oh, they're probably doing some kind of mind control plot where the Nazis are brainwashing Allied soldiers. But you would be incorrect, as this is the only British soldier that attacks you in the entire game. So this is utterly baffling. My only thought is they made a mistake and didn't bother to fix it. This chapter might actually have the most stuff going on in the entire game. As much as I've harped on the look of this room in particular, the level design of this chapter is actually fairly solid. We're introduced to Nazi super soldiers, there's another boss. This one's a lot less involved, just hang back and shoot him.
So that was the Major? What sort of symbol is that on his chest?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little difficult to tell what's on his chest when he's phased through the wall. We also get advancement of the story in this level. This is the first time in the game we get a solid grasp of what's going on. While it is true that Robert introduces each level via the loading screen, it's more or less him just rambling about his predicament. You meet up with this guy, Sergeant Anders, who is revealed to be Robert's childhood friend.
Weißt du nicht mehr? Wir waren Freunde, als wir noch klein waren. Die Höhlen, hinten beim Schloss, dort haben wir immer gespielt. Mein Vater hat mich jedes Mal verprügelt, wenn er rausbekommen hat, dass ich mich mit der Satansbrut des alten Freiern abgebe.
He explains to Robert that his family was involved in killing Robert's grandfather, but the SS is trying to resurrect him and apparently have succeeded.
Sie verrückt an, aber genau daran arbeiten die von der SS. Sie versuchen ihn zurückzuholen. Und als gestern Nacht alles drunter und drüber ging, ich befürchte fast, sie haben es geschafft.
He's told to go meet up with a scientist who will help you, and in the meantime, Anders will gather up his troops and meet up with you later. I know this is a pretty low bar for the best chapter in the game, but these simple things are not a luxury we will be granted for the rest of the game. At least not all at once. Chapter 4 is not worthy of note, but Chapter 5, holy shit, Chapter 5. We're greeted by Anders, who's portrayed by a completely different actor and speaks English now.
We meet again. It has gotten really crazy up there, Robert. The altar of the flames is there. They burn people to find ash and then bring them back. Blow it all up, so that this madness comes to an end.
And he tells us we need to blow up an altar, which will do something, I guess. Alright, let's go find this thing. And holy shit, look at this place. I know I made a big deal about the room in Chapter 3, but this blows it out of the water in terms of completely insane level design. We have no roof, pews that look completely out of place, a giant floating thing, stairs that lead to a chain link fence, and the back of these stairs are completely exposed. Why didn't they just put a wall here? This altar is surrounded by gas tanks, only one of which explodes. This room with a fucking skeleton with a gun.
I got a bone to pick with you!
More nonsensical stairs. This picture with text that is just a default font. Also, could you not be bothered to put a frame around this so it doesn't look completely out of place? It's not just the level design that is completely insane either. If we go back to the room that we fought the skeleton in, there's this door that's out of the way a bit, but can be unlocked with the key we found. So what's the reward for going out of our way to get here? The starting pistol! The one that is a little worse than the gun we already have. Fucking why? Not to mention, just a little bit later, there's just a sniper rifle sitting here. Why not put this in the secret room? This is also a great time to mention this game's inconsistency with enemy health. That skeleton we fought earlier went down in a few shots. How about this other one? Fifteen shots to bring him down. Why? Why? This game has another switch puzzle. I just looked up the answer, and thankfully this is not a repeat of earlier. Just works. We have a sniper duel with this guy, and we beat the chapter. The next chapter's content is mostly unnotable, besides having you run back and forth through electricity and having you eat brains.
Delicious brains.
It's kind of grueling, but not really worth mentioning. Looks like we're at the end of the level. Well, holy shit. This boss is impossible. He just melts you instantly. A thing of note, I do believe that this is a custom model, just by judging how shit it looks. No matter what I do, I can't get a foothold. If you notice, the exit door is completely fucked, so I tried making a run for it.
Door stuck! Door stuck! Please! I beg you!
But to no avail. I eventually figured out if you go to the side, the boss doesn't spawn at all. And for some reason, the key I need is right on top of where the exit door is housed, so we're good. We meet up with the scientist guy, and he really does not have a lot of useful info to tell us. The only new piece of info is that we share the same horrible mutations as our grandfather, and we're slowly becoming some kind of horrible Cthulhu-esque creature. I guess that's why we're chowing down on brains.
Delicious brains.
There really isn't a whole lot to talk about for the next few chapters. You just continue to traverse similar looking gray corridors while occasionally dying to bullshit. That is until we get to chapter 9. Oh ho ho! Mr. I Hate SMGs finally decided it would be a good idea to pick one up. I guess when you're literally eating brains, it's not that much of a moral quandary anymore.
Delicious brains.
The rest of the level plays out similar to the last ones, until... Oh great, another boss with a ridiculous looking important model. I put up a better fight than the last time, but it eventually gets the better of me. I didn't realize that this ammo here was for the MP40, as it looks exactly the same as the 1911 ammo. Well, okay, I'm ready now. Let's do this. And the boss won't spawn now. Alright, whatever, no skin off my nose. After defeating the boss, quote-unquote, we managed to make it to the scientist's twin brother. We can see that Robert is starting to transform. That or he didn't finish his sushi. I actually think this might be the case because that tentacle is gone the next scene. We can also see he's managed to get some Nickelodeon gack on his face.
What is gack?
Gack is great stuff. Oozy.
So this guy explains that the old gods were not gods at all, but rather space aliens, and that he has devised a portal that goes to where they come from. So Robert's all like, hey, send me there. But scientist guy is like, nah, you broke my shit. But then Anders busts in and he's like, hey, but do it though. And he's like, okay, but Himmler's gonna be mad at you. So we grab a communication device and we are on our way to the alien world. You know, I'm actually dumbfounded, flabbergasted, stupefied even. I did not think this game with Nazi super soldiers, spooky scary skeletons, zombie nurses, insane level design, eating brains, and a ton of other shit could jump the shark. But it did. It managed to do it. The old gods being aliens is such a stupid and shallow idea that completely ruins the mystique of Lovecraft creatures. But that's not even the worst part, because now we have to run around a space station talking to a sentient AI who's taken the form of a woman. Never heard that one before, guys. If that wasn't bad enough, most of this section of the game is centered around, wait for it, puzzles. Guys, let me level with you. This game can't even manage a puzzle where you need to flip a switch without it going horribly wrong. They are not equipped to do this, but they've done it anyway, and I gotta suffer through it. This first section is basically just trial and error. You're not given really any ammo, so just run past enemies, figure out what to do, and when you're not falling off the map, it's fine. The next few chapters, well, we're not so lucky. First of all, we're not given a gun, rather we have magic to use. Sounds cool, right? Well, let's just see how cool it is. First of all, we don't have any magic in reserve, so in order to get some, we must sacrifice a bit of our health. Now we can finally use magic, and it's underwhelming. It's just a projectile explosive, but you'll soon come to find out it doesn't always kill in one hit. Congrats, you've made what is supposed to be super powerful magic less powerful than a regular gun. So we come to this room. After taking out these goons, we're supposed to use different kind of magic to solve this puzzle. But whoopsies, the door to this room that you need to enter to progress closed and won't open. Also in this chapter, if you load a save, because let's say, I don't know, the game fucks up and you can't continue, it completely breaks all the triggers on this level. Yeah, fuck that. I powered through all the other BS in this game, but I'm drawing the line at that. Next chapter. This next level is full to the brim with enemies, and we are forced to engage with the magic. You really come to find out here that using this is extremely inconsistent. It wouldn't be so bad if you didn't have to take a hit every time you need ammo for this. I managed to make it through this section, but the next part is brutal. You see, the developer decided to make this part pitch black, so you need a spell that allows you to see, but that also takes away from your health pool to use. So now you need to sacrifice health in order to see, and you need to sacrifice even more health to get a couple of rounds for your projectile magic. Because this next enemy, inexplicably, has a shit ton of health. I try over and over again, but I eventually get it. And the rest of the level is pretty much smooth sailing.
Your creations can grow a new arm or leg, but nothing can survive fire.
The Lady AI takes a physical form in order to fight you, and this is basically what you do for the entire level. Not too much to talk about, but holy shit, I'm glad all that magic stuff is over, and I can just use a gun again. What is this? Why? Why? I guess the aliens are big fans of other fine products from Joe Wood Productions. I guess they can also time travel too, because while we are in space right now, it's still the 1940s. Maybe this was their stipulation for publishing the game. This isn't even the only time it shows up either. It's in the next level too. Speaking of, in the next level, we finally get a glimpse of our grandfather. No comment. He'll more or less kill you instantly, so we just need to run away from him. That's all this level is. Find switches to open doors and run away from your grandfather. We also put the AI who's been trying to kill us the entire time in our head.
So, take it and ram it into your forehead.
You aren't serious, are you?
It will not hurt you. Rather, it will become a part of you. Do it already.
Whatever, sure. Oh shit, a self-destruct. Let's move. There's the exit. Oh, come on. Fucking geometry, fuck you. Oh, awesome. When I reload my latest save, I instantly die. Well, back to this room, I guess. I make it to the end, we don't get fucked by a box again, and we're home free. Well, making it out, we're recaptured by the Nazis and thrown in a pit. Again. Anders and all his men die, and we're up next. This level is completely worthless and basically is only here to show that we escape. But why wasn't that just a cutscene? Ending your game with a nothing burger of a level does not leave a good impression on the player. I mean, you did the self-destruct thing. What are you doing? Robert escapes. He tries to warn people about what the Nazis are doing. No one believes him, and he's thrown in an insane asylum. That's it. Game done. Review done. I'm done. Goodbye.